inventory's tight right now, right? Like it's hard to find things. They're hearing this going, hold on, this is someone who has access to deals. How would you tell a listener who's maybe done a few deals but hasn't gotten, into this world yet to deal with someone like yourself? Like what if they called you up and said, hey Ryan, like I'm looking for this. What coach them through, like what do you want to hear from their side of the table?
The best way to get a hold of us is email, right? Ryan@smithREO.com. Send me an email. We'll get you in our database. We'll send out our weekly list of what's coming up, what we have coming. You'll get our deal of the day. Like when I list something a couple days before we list it, we'll send out an email deal of the day. I know Mark gets them. You get them, I think. And that's kind of an incentive to get out there and take a look at it, right? And have your ducks in a row. The biggest thing is these properties are sold as is, and as is means as is, right? It's not like, oh, as is till I go look at it. You know what I mean? That's a misconception. A lot of people come in, they say, well, we get them under contract. They might say, well, after looking at the plumbing's not working and the furnace is bad, so I need a $10,000 reduction. This isn't mom and pop game where you negotiate back and forth, right? You want to establish a relationship, understand you're buying what you're buying. You're closing on it as it stands, and kind of underwrite all your what ifs while you're going into worst case scenario. Now, look, there might be 2 breaks in the plumbing lines, and you might underwrite it for $5,000. It might cost you $1,200 bonus. But coming in and trying to renegotiate after you get a deal accepted, it makes, and if we're working with you, it makes me look bad to my client, and it makes you look as a newer novice investor in my eyes, right? So to continue deals, stand by, say what you're going to do what you're going to say, and understand what you're getting into. It's not your mom and pop estate sale where grandma's selling her house and you can beat the family up a little bit more because you have a contract.
Yeah.
It's very black and white, right? It is what it is. These are the numbers. If it works for you, if it doesn't, if you don't want to buy it, not to sound rude, but somebody else will. But I want to value a relationship with investors. We want to work with people and build networks, but know what you're doing.
Well, your seller in that scenario isn't worried about, I'm going to have to carry another gas bill next month. They're not worried about like, tax bill's due in a couple of weeks.
No.
Like, they're not doing that math that way. And a lot of people don't understand that part.
And again, a lot of people misconception, well, they got to get off their book. This books thing that's been around since the 80s. Yeah. Like that might have worked when you went to the Bank of Addison and went in there and said, oh, you guys got these 5 loans that are in trouble. I'll take them off your books, right?
And I'll close by the end of the month.
Yeah. We still like to close. We still have those goals, but it's not like, it's not going to kill them. They're not going to go into bankruptcy because they have to carry this property into January.
So buyers really don't have leverage is what I'm hearing from you. And really the advice is, if the deal doesn't work, walk away. Don't try hammer it down because it kind of is what it is.
Now, there's exceptions to every rule, right? Like if we go on a contract and Tom goes on a contract on a property and he's like, I understand it's as is all this. I'm going to do my diligence for a few days. Cool. And he says, hey, Ryan, man, we got into this house. We know the roof's bad, but all the roof trusses have termites in it. That's unseen by me when I'm walking it. That's unseen by you. Or, hey, Ryan, the foundation's bowing. There's major cracks behind the drywall and the basement was finished. Those are bigger issues that were unseen, and we can take a look at that, right? Or if the city comes in and says, like Cicero's good for this, we've got to replace the sewer line coming in. It's going to cost me $20,000. All right, I can probably split that cost or work that cost with you, but I'm not going to be able to cover the whole cost because you're benefiting it from the end, right? You're getting the newer sewer line. You're getting the new roof. Just because it might cost $20,000 to fix that, my client's not going to eat that. Because at the end of the day, the investor's getting the long-term benefit, but we can work with you on major ticket items. So I don't want people to get scared and say, well, the foundation, if you don't know about it, I don't know about it. We can work with it. But the basics, look, older windows, bad roof, buckled flooring, non-working appliances, non-working mechanics, that's all savvy investor things that they should underwrite going into it.
We need GFCIs in here.
$4,000 credit. Yeah.
When you guys go under contract, I know when I bought from you, it's been cash or Renovo.
Yeah.
But is there a play for traditional financing, or is everything pretty much got to be?
It depends on it's an asset by asset basis, right? I mean, like if we've got something in Itasca that's a ranch and everything looks good, and my only concern is plumbing. Because a lot like right now all these properties are winterized. We're really not going to de-winterize much.
Which you need to do if an FHA buyer is going to come
in. If an FHA buyer comes in, we will. Like I just had one in Crest Hill. Single family, 3,000 square foot home built in 2010. that's a loan product, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, we'll work with you on that. We can do it. But if you're coming to me at 66 in Ingleside and it's a brick 2-unit and there's no kitchen on the first floor and the bathroom, it's going to be hard for me to even think of conventional offers. So it's case by case. Hard money, you mentioned Renovo. There's so many hard money companies that have sprouted up in the past 4 or 5 years, right? Like you have USHomeFlippers.com and you get a know your hard. Like if I see a pre-approved from Brandon, those guys over Renovo, to me, that's pretty much golden. You know, Larry over at Finance America, I know these guys can get the deals done because they're local.
Yeah.
They know the markets. They know what they're underwriting, and they have a track record of success, right? These hard money guys that pop up with no-name lenders from North Carolina, and it's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to buy this house for $150. I'm going to put $40 into it. I'm going to sell it. Like, it's just not making sense, right? I'd rather see and oftentimes I'll ask the listing agent, hey, go to this guy at Renovo, go to this guy at Finance America and have them look at it. Because if they can underwrite, they say it's good, then we'll stand with it. We're very particular on out-of-state, out-of-market hard money lenders. That's why the relationships with local guys matter, right? So, yeah.
How many of these that you do actually hit the MLS? So I know you send them out. You
100% of them.
But you're on. You have to hit it, right?
I have to. Yeah. There's a lot of guys will call me and say, hey, can you do anything off? We can't do anything off MLS. Has to go on MLS typically 3 days.
Okay.
Right. If it's something of interest, that's why we do send them out. But if it's something in your wheelhouse, get out there, take a look at it. Because once it does hit the MLS, you have 3 days, and it's something that's hot. I want to know where you're going to stand. We want to know how you stack up against other things. And price isn't always the end-all, be-all, for example, right? Like the house could be listed at $150. I might have offers at $160, $170, and they might be hard money or $203K. And if you're like, hey, Ryan, I'm at $148, but I'm cash. I'm putting 10% earnest money. I'm waiving everything closing in 2 weeks. At $148, where I've got to finance at $162, that $148 sounds better.
Yeah.
Right? But don't come in and think at $110 you're going to compete. You have to be within reason of, but it's not end all be all. So if you got out there, took a look at it, we can work with you knowing what you're doing if it's a hot property.
How important is earnest money in your world?
Earnest money. I think earnest money in the state of Illinois is a joke.
I was going to chime in. It's ridiculous. I put silly, sorry to cut you off. I put silly amount of earnest money down in my contract for that reason, because it's like, look, it's useless.
It's useless, and I blame attorneys in the state of Illinois because our listeners don't know, you need both parties to agree to release the earnest money, right? And the buyer's attorney may want to release the earnest money, but never think of himself in the seller's shoes. And the seller's attorney may not want to release it, but then think of themselves in so the attorneys just play back and forth and say, well, you can't hold it, I'm not going to sign it. So earnest money, in my opinion, should be a lot more stringent in Illinois. It should be a lot more harder, and it should be more real. It's important on paper to my clients. They want to see 10%. But in reality, what's the chance of losing that 10%?
Especially if it's cash, right?
Right. If it's cash, you want to see 10%.
And you're looking for proof of funds.
Proof of funds. Proof of funds dated within the last 30 days. 10% earnest money on cash. But again, I tell people, what's your risk of losing it in the state of Illinois? Right? I think we need to do better as an industry of making earnest money more realistic.
I had a guy the other day send me a proof of funds. It wasn't even proof of funds. It was a letterhead from a bank, and it had it had my client. It was all fake. It was 100% fake. I'm like, come on, man. I'm like, yeah. But I didn't tell him that. I'm like, oh, that's fine. Just send me the bank statement that goes with this, and it would be cool.
Never heard
from him again.
Yeah.
But like, just to be, not to beat a dead horse with the earnest money, attorney review, even if you're buying as is or whatever, you have 5 days to do whatever the hell you want.
5 business days, yeah.
5 business days to just be like, I want
do whatever you
want.
Purple. Yeah.
If not, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like, you just make the most random, ridiculous requests, and it's just so, it's not good. Like,
you don't even need a reason. Seller or buyer can back out during an attorney review for no reason whatsoever. So,
yeah, I mean, the most common reason we see is we disapprove of the contract.
Yeah.
It's like, what section? The whole thing. Okay. Can I work with you? Let me know what part you disapprove with. Because a lot of times our attorneys will see our sellers' addendums and overthink it. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, hold on.
It's usually fatter than the actual the 7.8 or 8.0.
And they look into it, they're like, oh my, what don't you? Because I ask it because a lot of times if we talk about it, you realize it's very lamest terms, and it's not that big of a deal. So that's why I say, what disapprove of? And we just disapprove. That's their way out.
Congratulations on making it to the end of the video, and thank you for your support. If you're looking for more in-depth content or the full episode, you can find it here. And don't forget to subscribe over here.